you very much, devotees. As mentioned, we could not welcome you all, but we will go ahead to our next session, which is our Bhagavatam study. And today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Balaram Shakti Prabhuji with us. And Prabhuji will continue to enlighten us from Canto 6, Chapter 1, verse number 32. So it's Canto 6, Chapter 1, verse 32 onwards. Hari Bol, Prabhu. Whenever you're ready, you may take the call over. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji. So let us start. I'll just share the screen. Okay. Am I audible? Is my voice audible?
Prabhuji, we can hear
Yes,
you.
Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Shesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadhura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak this August Assembly. So today we will be discussing from the 6th first chapter 32nd verse. The episode of Ajamil has started, and we will read the verse, translation, report, and then we will see what we can learn. So 32nd verse. Uchurneditastam te vaivasvata purassaraha keyuyam pratishedharo dharmarajasya shashanam. So first time the Yamadutas are going to speak. So he says, when the order carriers of Yamaraj, the son of the sun god, were thus forbidden, they replied, Keyuyam, who are you, sirs, that have the audacity to challenge the jurisdiction of Yamaraj? Who are you? Keyuyam pratishedharo dharmarajasya sashanam. So who is it that who has the audacity to challenge the jurisdiction of Yamaraj? Okay. So Srila Prabhupada's purport to this verse, short purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, according to the sinful activities of Ajamil, he was within the jurisdiction of Yamaraj, the supreme judge appointed to consider the sins of the living entities. When forbidden to Ajamil, the order carriers of Yamaraj were surprised because they had never been hindered in the execution of their duty by anyone with 3 words. So, Prabhupada does say that he was definitely within the jurisdiction of Yamaraj, because, Prabhupada, doesn't do it very often. Generally, he sort of breaks the suspense before actually it is revealed in the past time. And this time, Prabhupada actually doesn't break it. So Prabhupada does say that Ajamil was within the jurisdiction of Yamaraj, which he isn't, which will be revealed very soon. But for now, Prabhupada thankfully chooses not to reveal the secret yet. So they are wondering, who are you? How come you are stopping? How come you have the audacity to stop us from executing the order of Yamaraj himself? Okay, so what to do today is let us do a quick recap of the story of Ajamil, which has been discussed till now. And in that, we will read some parts of Srila Prabhupada's purport, where Srila Prabhupada is explaining about the unique case of, I won't say unique, but definitely interesting case of Ajamil. And we will try to understand this episode of Ajamil. Okay, that is what we will try to understand today. Okay, so how does episode start? I did the recap last time from 1 to 19. I did I do it last time? Yeah. From the first verse to 19, I did a recap. So now I will recap from 20 to 32, which is what we have been discussing. So here the whole episode started with when Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadev Goswami as to how the people of this people going to hell can be saved, and after testing Parikshit Maharaj, Sukadev Goswami proposed that it is bhakti, that it is only bhakti which can destroy all the sinful reactions. And in order to establish this point, he quotes this story of Ajamila. So he says, Atra cha udaharantimam itihasam pura dutanam Vishnu yamayoho samvadastam nibodame. So he says, concerning this subject, the wise the ancients, the wise quote this ancient story of Ajamil. Please hear that story in which there is a conversation between the Vishnu Dutas and the Yamadutas. So he says, Kanyakubje dvijakaschit dasipati rajamilah na nashta sadacharo dasyaha samsarga dushitaha. Kanyakubje in a place called Kanauj, which is, or Kanyakubja, which is Prabhupada says it is Lucknow. Dvijakaschit, there was some Brahmana, Dasipati, eventually became the husband of a prostitute. His name was Ajamilah. Ajamilah na Nashta Sadacharo. Nashta Sadacharo means who had lost all good conduct. Why? Dasyaha Samsarga Dushitaha, because he was contaminated by the association of this Dasi. So what he used to do, Bandi Akshaihi, Bandyakshaihi Kaitavai Suryair Garhitam Vrittim Astitaha Bibrat Kutumbam Ashuch Yatayam Asa Dehinaha. That sinful Brahmana maintained that wife and her children by taking up a condemned profession, by tying people up, gambling, cheating, and stealing. He thus afflicted many living entities. Evam nivasatastasya lalayanasya tatsutan kalo satyagat mahan rajan ashta shityayushas samaha. In this, when he spent his life in this way, in such a sinful way, he begot many children from this Dasi, and eventually he became 80 years old. Tasya Prabhayasah putra dashatesham tu yo avamaha balo narayano nam pitroscha daito brisham. Tasya Prabhayasah putra dashatesham tu yo avamaha. So he had 10 children, of whom the youngest was Narayana. Pitroscha daito brisham. He was like very, very dear to both the parents. Sa baddha hridayastasmin arbake kalabhashini nirikshamanas tallilam mumude jarato brisham. So saha jarat brisham. Jarataha means he had become very old. Brisham jarata. He had become very old. Tasmin arbake baddha hridaya, but he was very much attached to the child. Kalabhashini. Kalabhashini means he was still speaking very broken words. He was quite young. Tad leelam nirikshamanaha mumude brisham. And when he would observe the activities of that small child, he would become very, very happy. Bunja prapiman khadan balakam snehayantritaha bhojayan payayan mudo na veda agatam antakam. Bunjanaha prapiban khadan, while eating, drinking, and chewing, snehayantritaha, out of affection, bhalakam bhojayan payayan, he would he would feed that child also, and he would make drink whatever he was drinking. Mudaha Veda Agatamandakam. This foolish person did not know that death had arrived. Uh, so, so here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, so I just want you to note down certain inputs that Srila Prabhupada and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti would give time and again about what is this case of Ajamil. This person called out for his son, and Vishnu Duta's king. We never see this in our own life. What is this? What is this case of Ajamil? Of course, I'm sure many devotees would discuss this, but I thought of discussing this from a particular perspective, in a particular way. I thought I could touch this topic. Anyways, of course, you have to bear with it till this whole episode gets over. I think many people might discuss about the case of Ajamil. I mean, it's Bhagavatam. It purifies. So I will do my job. I'll try to do my job. So Srila Prabhupada writes, so please note down the insights the Acharya are giving about Ajamil's episode as and when we are moving through this. So he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is kind to the conditioned soul. Although this man completely forgot Narayana, he was calling his child, saying, Narayana, please come eat this food. Narayana, please come drink this milk. Somehow or other, therefore, he was attached to the name Narayana. This is called Agyata Sukriti. Point to be noted. Okay. Although calling for his son, he was knowingly chanting the name of Narayana. And the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so transcendently powerful that his chanting is being counted and recorded. Right? There is a transcendental counting system and recording system. Sa evam vartamano agyo mrityukala upastite matim chakara tanaye bale narayana hvaye. Evam vartamana. In this way, life was going on. Mrityukale upastite, the time of death. Saha agyaha, the foolish Ajamil, matim chakara tanaye bale. As soon as death arrived, the mind naturally went to that personality to whom he was most attached to, which was Narayana. Narayana Hvaye, whose name was Narayana. Okay. So here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes from Sridhar Swami. Sridhar Swami says it is suitable to conclude that by the power of chanting the name Narayana while caring for his son, he developed bhakti. Point to be noted, which is what Srila Prabhupada also mentions here. Somehow or other, therefore, he was attached to the name Narayana. This is called as Agyata Sukriti. Okay. Now, Prabhupada writes a long purport to this. Point to be noted. You would have seen this. You would have already, someone would have spoken on this verse. But I want you to note down the various points that Srila Prabhupada mentions, quoting various acharyas. I think it's this verse, right? Yeah, this one. So in this, Srila Prabhupada says, in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami says, Etavan Sayogabhyam Swadharma Parinishtaya Janmalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, acquiring of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of one's occupational duty is to revere the personality of Godhead at the end of life. So here is Ajamil, who did not remember the Supreme Lord at the end of life, but at least chanted his name, whether addressing him or addressing his son, whatever it may be, but he did chant the name of Krishna at the end of his life. Right? So, here, Srila Prabhupada said, somehow or other, Ajamil consciously or unconsciously chanted the name of Narayana at the time of death, Ante Narayana Smriti, and therefore he became all perfect, simply concentrating his mind on the name of Narayana. It may also be concluded that Ajamil, who was son of a Brahmana, was accustomed to worshipping Narayana in his youth because in every Brahmana's house there is a worship of Narayan Shila. Okay, again, this is a point that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here. This system is present in India in a rigid Brahmana's house. There is a Narayan Seva or worship of Narayan. Therefore, although the contaminated Ajamila was calling for his son by concentrating his mind on the holy name of Narayana, he remembered the Narayana he had very faithfully worshipped in youth. Point to be noted again. So Prabhupada does say that he was remembering Narayana. Okay. In this regard, Sridhar Swami expressed his verdict as follows. What is Sridhar Swami's verdict? Yetacha tad upalalanaadi Shri Narayana Nama Ucharana Mahatmyena tad bhaktir eva abhud iti siddhanta upayogitvenapi drashtavyam. So he says, according to the Bhakti Siddhanta, it is to be analyzed that because Ajamil constantly chanted his son's name, Narayana, he was elevated to the platform of Bhakti, although he did not know it. This is actually Agyata Sukriti. This is the explanation of Srila Prabhupada. He is quoting Srila Sridhar Swami. Similarly, the Veeraraghavacharya gives his opinion. Evam वर्तमानः सद्विजः मृत्युकाले उपस्थिते सद्यो नारायणाख्ये पुत्र एव मतिं चकार मतिं आसक्ताम् अकरोत् इति अर्थः. Although at the time of death he was chanting the name of his son, he nevertheless concentrated his mind upon the holy name of Narayana because his son's name was the holy name Narayana. So he concentrated his mind on the holy name of Narayana. Now he quotes Srila Vijayadvaja Tirtha. Srila Vijayadvaja Tirtha gives a similar opinion. Mrityukale deha viyoga lakshana kale mrityoho sarvadosha papa harasya harer anugrahale datta jnane lakshane jnana lakshane upasthite kriti prakashite ye purna jnane bale panchavarsha kala kalpe प्रादेशमात्रे नारायणाह्वये मूर्ति विशेषे मतिं स्मरण समर्थं चित्तं चकार भक्त्या अस्मरद इति अर्थः. So similar, it is mentioned directly or indirectly. Ajamil factually remembered Narayana at the time of death. Ante Narayana Smriti. So this is Srila Prabhupada's explanation by quoting various acharyas. Anyways, so now. So he calls his son Sa Pashahastam Strin Drishtva Purushan Atidarunan Vakratundan Urdvaromna Atmanam Tumagatan Dure Kvidanaka Asaktam Putram Narayanahvayam Platena Swarena Ucher Ajuhava Akulendriyaha. Ajamil then saw three terrifying Strin Atidarunan Purushan Vakratundan with twisted faces. Urdvaromna Atmanam, the hair standing erect on their bodies. Pashahastan, they had the Yamapash in their hands. Netumagatan, and who had come to take him away. Akula Indriyaha, with great anxiety. Platena Uchaihi Swarena Ajuhava, with prolonged cries he loudly called. Putram Narayanahvayam, his son named Narayana. Dure Kridanaka Atam, who was absorbed in playing at a distance. So he called Narayana, Narayana like that at the time of death. So Srila Vishwanath Thakur writes, though he had committed unlimited sins, his sins could be classified into three types: body, verbal, and mental sins. So he had performed bodily sins, verbal sins, mental sins. So therefore, three Yamadutas came. Okay. Thus, three servants of Yama approached him. Because the name Narayana had four syllables, Narayana, therefore four servants of Vishnu came. This is explanation. Okay. Nishamya Mriyamanasya Mukato Hari Kirtanam Bhartnama Maharaja Parshadaha Sahasapatan. This is spoke to Maharaja. This is Shukadev Goswami narrating to Prahlad Maharaj. Nishamya Harikirtanam, hearing the glorification of the Lord. Mriyamanasya Mukataha, from the mouth of the dying man. Bharturnama, who had uttered the name of their master at the time of death. Parshadaha Sahasa Apatan, the associates of Vishnu arrived suddenly to that place. So here it is, hearing Harikirtan, the associates of Vishnu arrived. It came from the mouth of the dying man uttering his name. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada writes, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks, Harikirtanam nishamya apatan khatam bhutasya bhartur nama bhruvataha. The order carriers of Lord Vishnu came because Ajamil had chanted the holy name of Narayan. They did not consider why he was chanting. While chanting the name of Narayan, Ajamil was actually thinking of his son, but simply because they heard Ajamil chanting the Lord's name, the order carriers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, immediately came for Ajamil's protection. So even though he was calling for his son, so they immediately came for his protection. Harikirtan, Srila Prabhupada writes, is actually meant to glorify the holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities of the Lord. Ajamil, however, did not glorify the form, qualities, or paraphernalia of the Lord. He simply chanted the holy name. Nevertheless, that chanting was sufficient to cleanse him of all sinful activities. Point to be noted. As soon as the Vishnu Dutas heard their master's name chanted, they immediately came. Okay. In this regard, Srila Vijayadvaja Tirtha remarks, Anena putra sneham antarena prachina adrishta balad udbhutaya bhaktya bhagavan nama sankirtanam kritam iti gyayate. So he says, Jamil chanted the name of Narayana because of his excessive attachment to his son. This is very clearly mentioned. Okay. Nevertheless, because of his past good fortune in having rendered devotional service to Narayana, he apparently chanted the holy name in full devotional service and without offenses. Point to be noted here. This is what Vijayatita says, that he, due to his having done past devotional service to Lord Narayana. So what past devotional service did Ajamil perform to Lord Narayana? Okay. And therefore, and he chant without offenses. Anyways, these are things to be figured out. You know, things are presented in bits and pieces here and there, but it's very difficult to connect all of that together into one coherent explanation of what exactly happened with Tamil. Why is it not happening to any of us, right? Or any of the people whom we are observing? They are not as bad as Ajamil. So why isn't the Vishnu Dutas coming? Anyways, let us see. Vikarshato antarhridaya dasipati amilam yama preshyan Vishnu Duta varayamasuro. The servants of Vishnu with loud voices obstructed the servants of Yama who were dragging Ajamil from his heart. They stopped. The Yamadutas, the Vishnu Dutas stopped the Yamadutas from taking Ajamil away. Uchur nisheditastamste vaivasvata purassaraha keyuyam pratishedharo dharmarajasya shasanam. Being forbidden, the assist of Yama said to the servants of Vishnu, Keyuyam, who are you? Dharmarajasya shasanam pratishedharo. Who are you who are opposing the rules of Raj? This is where we are now. So now, as I mentioned, bits and pieces in the commentaries, Srila Prabhupada quotes from Vijayadvaja Tirtha, Srila Veeraraghavacharya, Srila Sridhar Swami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, various points here and there, but they don't seem to weave together a very coherent story explaining the mystery surrounding Ajamil. It has to be so special. That's why it's there in Bhagavatam. So, what exactly is the case of Ajamil? Okay. So now we are going to discuss resolving the mystery of Ajamil. The mystery is resolved in one particular commentary, which is a very historic commentary written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in 6.2.9 and 10. So in which very long purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Jiva Goswami, they write short purports, and Prabhupada writes very long purports. But for this one particular purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives such a long purport that Prabhupada at the end of the chapter summarizes the whole purport in a few paragraphs. He puts a separate appendix. You never see Prabhupada doing that. So Prabhupada adds a separate appendix at the end of the 6th canto, 2nd chapter, where summarizes the explanation of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, because it's such a long commentary. One of the longest trees that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote, probably the longest. Okay, did anyone discuss this commentary 6.29 to 10 explaining the episode of Ajamil? Has any Bhakti Sangha speaker, have they? No.
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. So today we will discuss this, even though this is going to come in the future. But I am telling you, in future, if someone in this class discusses this purport again, you will not regret. Because this is such a landmark purport. Explains practically Nama Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Apada Tattva. So many tattvas are very, with great clarity, is described in this one particular verse. Okay, so we'll take this in the commentary to this verse. Okay, so yeah, the verse is spoken the Vishnu Dutas to Yamadutas. So where they are describing the glory, holy name of Krishna, they say, Stenaha Surapo Druk Brahmaha Gurutalpaga Stri Raja Pitru Gohanta Yecha Patakinopare Sarvesham api Agavatam Idam Eva Sunishkritam Nama Vyaharanam Vishnor Yetastad Vishayamati. So it is mentioned that the chanting of the holy name of Vishnu, Idam Eva Sunishkritam, it is the best process for Stenaha, Surapo, Mitradruk, for all kinds of sinful people. Okay. Idam Eva, just simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, Sarvesham api Agavatam Yatastad Vishayamati. Such sinful persons will attract the attention of the Supreme Lord. So chanting holy name does not just make the living entity attached to Krishna. It does not just make the living entity Krishnonmukh, but it makes Krishna Jivanmukh. Krishna becomes very attached to that Jiva who is chanting the holy name. Okay, this is the verse. Okay, but see the commentary that somehow Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur chooses this particular verse to elaborate on Bhakti Tattva, Nama Tattva, Aparada Tattva, and what not. So many powerful presentations trying to explain what is this case of this Ajamila. Okay, let's start. Okay, so let me start. So here it is mentioned, the name of the Lord may destroy sins, but how can Namabhas be the atonement for thousands of grave sins which cannot be destroyed by 12-year vows? So the way I am going to address this, read this purport is I'm going to, I am going to do it. Vishnu Chaketakur has written this purport, but we are going to do question, answer, question, answer like that. So this is the first question. Question 1. Okay. Question 1 is, the name of the Lord may destroy sins, but how can Nama Bhas? So he, Ajamil did not even chant Shuddhanam. He chanted Nama Bhas. How can that Nama Bhas is not even completely pure? How can that act as an atonement of thousands of grave sins, which cannot be destroyed even by thousands of 12-year vows? There are, in the Karmakandi atonement process, there are some kind of atonements which take 12 years to complete. In order to overcome that one sin, it takes 12 years of atonement. You are telling, by chanting one holy name, and that too not very effectively, it can destroy the grave sins which can be destroyed by thousands of such 12-year vows. How is it possible? May I ask this question? This is the first question. So this verse says that, so the questions will be, I will mark them in red, the answers are in black. Okay. So the answer 1, he says, chanting is the best atonement. It destroys the root of sin. Idam eva sunishkritam. Nishkritam means atonement. Sunishkritam means best atonement. Okay. Because it addresses the root cause of sin. Okay. So the root of sin is sinful desire. Okay, let me write it here. So sin is caused due to sinful desire. Okay. Sinful desire is caused due to sinful impressions or vasanas. Okay. Sinful impressions are actually caused due to Krishna Bahirta. Okay. Turning our face away from Krishna. So chanting is the best atonement because it destroys not only the sin which manifests as prarabdha and aprarabdha karma. Okay. Future sins and current sins. It destroys that for sure. But it also destroys the sinful desires, which is the roots of sin. And it also destroys the sinful impressions, which is the root cause of sinful desires. And it also destroys our envy towards Krishna, which is the root cause of all these sinful impressions also developed. So he says, a 12-year vow of atonement, though it destroys the effects of sin, it cannot destroy the root of sin. It cannot destroy the root of sin. That is not the only result, because from chanting the name of the Lord's mind dwells on that person who chants. Yatastad vishayamatihi. Okay. So which means the Lord becomes Jivonmukha. He becomes Unmukha, very attached to the Deva who chants his names. Not only does the chanting make the Jiva Krishnonmukh, it makes Krishna Jivonmukh. So what does it mean? The Lord thinks, oh, this person belongs to me. I will always protect him. So when a person chants the holy name, so Krishna feels, oh, this person belongs to me. I will always protect him. This is Sridhar Swami's meaning of the phrase. So hearing his name being chanted and remembering Ajamil, the Lord ordered us to bring Ajamil chanting his name. So this is what the This is what the Vishnu Dutas are telling the Yamadutas, that hearing that his name being chanted, the Lord immediately sent us to here to bring Ajamil. So then, how more the Lord will remember a person who chants the Lord's name with service attitude? Ajamil did not even chant the Lord with service attitude. In fact, he was calling his son Narayan. But if someone chants the name with service attitude, how much the Lord becomes obliged to such a person? This is the implication. To show this to the servants of Brahma, the servants of Vishnu said that Ajamil chanting at the time of death had destroyed all sins. Okay, but this is very important point. But actually, from the first time that Ajamil called his son Narayana, out of all the times that he called, all his sins had been destroyed. This is the explanation. The first time Ajamil called out his son Narayana, at that time all the sins had been destroyed. Okay. The rest of the chanting after that produced bhakti. So Narayana, 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 come here, Narayana, eat this food, Narayana, drink this water. The first time he called, that time only all sins were destroyed. Subsequently, the subsequent chanting of Narayana actually produced bhakti. What Prabhupada mentions in that particular purport, he accumulated Agyata Sukriti. So when is Agyata Sukriti accumulated? Agyata Sukriti is accumulated when someone engages some limb of devotional service without understanding that it is a limb of devotional service, but and also without a desire to get something in return from the Lord. So Narayan Ajam did not know. I mean, he did not consciously call his son Narayana out of devotion. He did not call his son Narayana because at the end of life, if I chant Narayana, all my sins will go away. With that mood, he didn't chant. Because if he had an understanding of the glories of the holy and chanted it in that way for some material benefit or for liberation, then he would not get Agyat Sukriti. He would get what he wants. For Agyata Sukriti manifest, one should not have any understanding of the glories of the holy name or any limb of devotional service for that. So yes, there are more questions coming up in the chat box. All your questions will be answered. This is my this is not my promise. This is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's promise. So just read and watch. There is one question, Prahladanand Prabhu, right? Did the first time chanting destroy future sins as well? Yes. But he is going to explain now. Okay. The rest of the chanting produce bhakti. So I am just requesting you, please stay through the whole purpose. Every line is potent here. You can't afford to miss a single syllable of this photo. So please stay. If you go here and there, you may miss the connection. So please do not leave. Okay. So he says here, the past tense of yad vyajahara vivasho nama swastyanam harehe. This comes in the 6.7 in that verse. Vyajahara. Yad vyajahara vivasho nama swastam harehe. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says in that verse also indicates that from the first time he chanted the name, all his sins had been destroyed. The word vivashaha in the means spontaneously out of affection for his child. When for the first time he chanted the name of Narayan. Of course, there is a story. I don't know. You may know this story. It once happened. This is described not in Bhagavatam, but in some other Purana. It is there that how one gets bhakti only through the touch of devotees. Okay, so once it so happened that a group of sadhus came to the village where Ajamil was staying. So they were looking for a Brahmana's house in which they could earn prasadam. So when they came, one or two of those village people who wanted to play some prank on the sadhus, they said, "Oh, there is a very exalted Brahmana by the name Ajamil, and he stays in this particular house. You go there and he will do very nicely." So the sadhus went to Ajamil's house. Ajamil was not there. Ajamil was not there. He had gone to take bath or somewhere he had gone. So his wife, the prostitute, opened the house. She was pregnant with a child in her, and the sadhu said, "Oh, we have been sent." They told that Ajamil is a Brahmana and he could feed us. And the prostitute becomes very embarrassed. She said, "Actually, this is true. This is no doubt this is Ajamil's house, but he's a very good Brahmana, and I am a prostitute," and all that she ends. So they understood that someone had played a prank on them. So, but still, because sadhus are always very mercifully disposed, they wanted to, and Ajamil was not there also. So they said, "Oh, they saw that she was pregnant," and they said, "You know what? Because how could genuine sadhus not feel compassionate seeing that a person was wasting life away in sinful life?" So they, you know what? This child is born, name him Narayana, and they left. So when Ajamil comes back, the wife narrates the whole story, and he says, "Okay, we will name him Narayana." And in this way, they were named Narayana, because some devotee's touch has to be there for someone to get bhakti, ideally. So in this case, this was the case. This is narrated in one of the Puranas. So, anyways, so here it is mentioned that the word vivashaha in that verse spontaneously out of affection. Okay. So now the second question arises. Please note. Question number 2. The question is, but after chanting repeatedly, there were repeated sins, such as going to the prostitute and drinking wine and all that. You say the first time he chanted, all sins were destroyed, but even after chanting, he continued to stay with that prostitute. He drank wine. So my understanding is, in order to destroy those sins, he had to chant at the end of his life, since there were again appearance of sin. So he said, okay, there were, till he married, till Narayana was born, there were 1,000 kilograms of sins. Okay. Then the first time he chanted Narayana, all 1,000 kilograms of sins were destroyed. But subsequently he continued sin. Then whenever he chanted Narayana, that sin was destroyed. Correct, right? This is the question someone may ask. So as and when he was sinning again and again, because it was seen that definitely Ajamil was sinning even after calling Narayana for the first time. Till the last time he was sinning. So it be understood that first time whatever previous sins were destroyed, but for destroying the subsequent sins he had to chant again. Is that understanding right? So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, no, this cannot be said, because it will be said later Vaikunta Nama Grahanam Ashesha Gaharam. Chanting the Lord's name destroys unlimited sins. Unlimited sins means what? Vartamanam cha yat papam yad bhutam yad bhavishyati tat sarvam nirdahati ashu Govinda Ananakirtana. All sins in the present, all sins in the past, all sins in the future are quickly destroyed by chanting the name of Govinda, which is like fire. This is quoted in Haribhaktas. So he says, Vartamanam Bhutam Bhavishyati. So present tense, past tense, future tense, all sins are destroyed. So first time he chanted, all his past sins, present sins, and future sins were also destroyed. That is the explanation. So one should not say that the first time he chanted, all the previous sins were dead, but for the future sins he had to chant again. No, this is not correct. He quotes many more verses to prove this. Yan nama sakrit shravanat pukkasho vimuchyate samsarat. He says, by hearing one of your names once, even the outcast is delivered from the material world. Samsarat vimuchyate means his subsequent birth is not due to law of karma. That's what it means. Naivam vida purushakara urukramasya pumsang tadangri raja jita shadgunana chitram vidura vigata sakridardadita yan nama deya maduna sajahati bandham. This is describing about Priyavrat Maharaj in the 5th canto. He says, such power is not surprising. How could Priyavrat Maharaj make such amazing, by his chariot? How could he make 7 islands and 7 oceans? This seems very fantastic. So he says, such power is not surprising. Na chitram jita shadgunana. For those persons who have conquered their 6 senses, this thing is very easy. But was he just sense control? He says no. That sense control came from Urukramasya Tadangri Rajasa. By the dust, he did the sense control by the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord. Vidura Vigata. Since even an outcast, Aduna Sajahati Bandham, becomes immediately freed from the bondage of karma. Sakrit Adadita Yannamadeyam, by chanting the Lord's name even once. Immediate freedom bondage, even to an outcast who chants the holy name once. If that is the potency of the holy name for someone who has sold himself to the lotus feet of the Lord, such powerful powers should not be astonishing. That's what Bhagavatam says. So after having quoted all these verses, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, because there is no mention of a particular time span for the effect to occur, because there is no mention of a particular time span for the effect to occur, it should be understood. This is a very powerful statement. Please hear carefully. It's understood that by the first chanting, there is destruction of all sins, there is destruction of all desires, there is destruction as well as of ignorance, which is the root cause, because only then the sin will not appear in the future. He says, by the first chanting of the holy name, there is destruction of sins, there is destruction of desires, and there is destruction of ignorance as well. So now the question, but this does not answer one very critical question here, which is question 3. Why then did sin not leave Ajamil after chanting the first time? If you say the first time he chanted the holy name, sins were destroyed, desires were destroyed, ignorance was destroyed, but your explanation is not actually explaining the observation that Ajamil did continue committing sin even after repenting for the first time. How could he continue to be attached to the woman and commit sin for so long if all sins had been destroyed? If you say all his sins were destroyed, sinful desires were destroyed, why is he attached to the woman? This question arises. So now the answer. Answer number 3. Okay. So the explanation is this. Like the karmas of the Jivan Mukta, which remain for some time simply as impressions, Ajamil's sins lasted till his death were like the bites of a toothless snake and did not generate results. Did not generate results means results here refers to karma. There were some inertia of his conditioning was still there. Just like we have inertia of our conditioning, right? Even though we don't want to a particular forbidden activity, but our conditioning pushes us to perform that activity. So sometimes, but once someone has taken up to bhakti, that uh, unintentional, unwilling commission of full activities will not generate any karma, which will cause rebirth. Okay, so that will not happen. So therefore, Srila Vishwanath Thakur says, it is just like the bite of a toothless snake. When a toothless snake bites, only the person who has taken the bite will know that there was no tooth. Other people will feel like, oh, it is the snake has bitten him. Similarly, a devotee may also suffer, but that suffering is not due to his karma. A devotee may also take birth again, but that next birth is not controlled by his karma. It is facilitated by the Supreme Lord, because the Lord has taken over. The person chants the holy name. That is what was mentioned. Right? Oh, now he is my property. It is my personal responsibility to take care of him. Like that the Lord thinks. Right? So, moreover, the Lord himself will cause continuance of sin in order that other philosophies, etc., will not be complete rooted. So this is the first explanation of why sins continued. Okay. The second explanation is that the Lord himself will cause continuance in, because if someone chants the holy name and immediately he stops sinning, then people with a proper appreciation of bhakti, they will just that misuse the holy name, and it may not work for them also, because with that karmakandiya mentality, when you chant the holy name will not give this effect. You will see this later in the same purport, because that is an offensive mentality. So therefore, even though the person should not be sinning, but sometimes the Lord will allow continuation of sinning in that particular devotee, so karma kanda and other such lower philosophies are not disturbed. Such people are not disturbed. Such philosophies are not disturbed. If one were to explain the scriptural statements concerning the powers of the name to be exaggerated of the Lord's name, then one would be committing offense. This is very important. Yennama sashravanat pukkashopi vimuchyate samsara. The verse says, once one, even a Dandala, if he chants once, he will escape samsara. Oh, come on. The holy name is great, no problem. But you know what? Sometimes the Shastras do exaggerate the praise. It is this much glorious, but the Shastras will say it is this much glorious, so that you take up to the process. If the Shastras would say it is only much glorious, then you may not feel so inspired to accept the process. So therefore, the Shastras exaggerate. If you say like this is an offense. So the Puran says, Tatartavado Harinamni Kalpanam. It offends to interpret the name or think that its powers are exaggeration. So if one commits such offenses, then the holy name will punish such a person. So he says, Namashraya kadachit syat taratyeva sanamataha. Namno hi sarva suhrudo hi adat patatyadaha. One who takes shelter of the name at any time crosses material life by the name. The holy name is capable of helping one cross samsara immediately. But the same holy name will send that person to hell. One falls to hell from off to the name of the Lord. Even though the holy name is Sarva Suhrudohi, even though the holy name is friend of all beings, but still if we offend the name, especially when we commit arthavada, considering the glories of the name an exaggeration, or try to interpret, oh, it must not mean this, must mean something else. Like that, when we start interpreting the holy name, this is an offense. Arthavadam harer namni sambhavayati yo naraha sa papishto manushyana patati sputam. It says, those most sinful of men who interpret the name of the Lord fall to hell. Padma Puran. And another verse from Padma Puran says, Yanma kirtana phalam vividam nishamya na shraddadati manute yadutartavadam yo manushasmiha dukka chayek shipami samsara ghora vividarti nipiditangam. So he says, that person nishamya yan nama kirtana vividam phalam. That person who hears very supreme glorification of the holy name of the Lord, Shraddha dhati, but does not put faith in that. Yad uta artavadam, and on the contrary, starts interpreting the holy name. Oh, it should not mean like this. It is not so glorious. Actually, it is mentioned like that so that you get attracted. Actually, it is not so glorious. You know, that kind of an interpretation of the holy name. The Lord says, Tam ihak shipami. That person is hurled by me, samsara gora vivida arti, into the deep gloom of material nescience. Dukkache nipidita angam, after being dragged through excruciating suffering, I cast him again and again into the deep gloom of material nescience. This is a very serious offense to interpret the holy name. Further, Jaimini Samhita says, Shruti Smriti Puraneshu Nama Mahatmyavadishu Ye Artavadaiti Bruyur Na Tesha Nirayekshayaha. Persons who interpret the Shrutis, Smritis, and Puranas wonderfully glorify the Lord's name, stay in hell forever. So one should certainly not commit offenses to the holy name, interpret the holy name, consider the glorification of the name to be an exaggeration. So therefore he says, thus from the scriptures like Padma Puran and Katyayana Samhita, there are thousands of statements showing fall down from interpreting the holy name. So you cannot interpret the name. And then there is a proof, a very powerful proof that Sri Vishnu is presenting here. That this is a very logical proof. Please hear the logic very, very carefully. This is a very nice logic that I think I did mention it in one of these sessions also. When Maharaj asked Shukadeva Goswami, how can these people going to hell be protected? He said, oh, perform Karmakandya Prayaschitta. When for every sin there is an atonement, they perform atonement for each sin, so they will not have to go to hell. So Parikshit Maharaj responds, Kvachin dattate abhadrat kvachit charati tatpunaha prayaschittam ato artam manye kunjar shauchavat. So he says, no, I don't think what you say is right, because Kvachin nivartate abhadrat, sometimes these people who perform this karmakandi atonement, sometimes they may stay away from sin, kvachit charati tat punaha, but sometimes they come to sinful activities again. Prayaschittam ato apartam. Therefore, in my opinion, this prayaschitta is useless. Manye kunjara shauchavat. In my opinion, just like an elephant taking bath. Why? Because I have heard that these people performing prayaschitta, even though sometimes they may refrain from committing sins, but again I said they do commit sins. What is this? Therefore, I reject prayaschitta. Now, the same Parikshit Maharaj, same Sukadev Goswami, few verses later, when he suggested bhakti, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Agham Dunvanti Karina Niharame Bhaskara. He said that by bhakti, complete sins are destroyed. But interestingly, Parikshit Maharaj did not object. Parikshit Maharaj did not, because but this is very interesting that Parikshit Maharaj did not object, because haven't you ever observed, either in your own life or in the life of other devotees, that sometimes you know that this is a forbidden activity, this is not favorable for my bhakti, but still we end up committing that sinful activity uh, uh, again, or forbidden activity again. So, and then we say, oh, no, I will not do it again. But after sometimes maybe a few weeks, few months, we succumb to that same forbidden activity again. Have you ever observed this in your own life or other devotees' life? Please raise your hands. Only, yeah, slowly everyone is raising their hands, right? So we all have observed this. This is commonly occurring thing in our own life, and we see it in the life of other devotees also. They say, no, I won't do it. And after some time, they end up doing it. They say, no, I won't do it. And after some time, they end up doing it. So this is observed, common occurrence. But interestingly, Parikshit Maharaj did not raise a point. When Shukadeva Goswami said, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya, he accepted it. Isn't this unfair? Isn't this unfair? You see, because when Parikshit Maharaj rejected Karmakandi atonements, for not just rejected, but he gave a purpose for rejection. So he said the purpose of the reason why I reject is because such people, even though they refrain from sins, they end up committing sins again. Because therefore, I clearly see that this atonement is not addressing the root cause of the problem. They may destroy the reactions of the sins already committed, but they don't really seem to address the root of the problem, because we do see that person is committing sin again. When such a tendency is seen in devotees also, it is very strange that Parikshit Maharaj did not raise an issue. Was he biased towards bhakti? Did he have something against? Was he biased against Karmakanda? What is this? This seems very strange. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, he quotes this verse. He says, he or Parikshit Maharaj has condemned atonements because of seeing that the tendency of sin remains. He does not criticize bhakti, even though seeing sinful tendencies in some of the devotees. And in Kali Yuga, practically all of the devotees, or most of the devotees. And Ajamil, a sinner by the strength of Nama Bhava, has attained Vaikunta, but Smartas and others, even though knowing scriptures and though chanting the name, continue existence in frightful samsara because of the offense of interpreting the name. This is the problem. A devotee does not interpret the name. The Smartas also chant the holy name. The mixed devotees, the Karma Yogis also chant the holy name. The Jnana Yogis also chant the holy name. They have some faith in the holy name, but not so much faith. When they hear such exalted glorification of the holy name, they say, oh, it's just an exaggeration. They interpret the holy name. Because they interpret the holy name, because of that offense, the holy name does not deliver them from samsara. Even though they chant the holy name, addressing the Supreme Lord only. Ajamil uh, addressed his son. That is why it is considered as Namabhas, Ashraddha Namabhas. Namabhas also many varieties. We will discuss this some other day. Whereas these Smartas, they chant the holy name addressing the Lord, they don't escape samsara. Ajamil escapes samsara because Ajamil did not interpret the holy name. Ajamil did not know anything about the holy name. Whereas these Smartas and others, they interpret the holy name, so they are punished. Okay. So, therefore, so then the next question. So this is question number 5, I guess, right? Already 4 are over. We have addressed 4 questions or 3 questions. Let me see. Okay, 3 questions we have addressed. So this is the 4th question that arises. Question 4. Okay. Okay, if chanting can deliver everyone, then whoever chants the holy name should immediately become liberated by such power of the name. Then you should see that whoever is chanting the holy name should get liberated. Okay. So, but we don't see this. How do you explain this? So here, answer to this question. Shri Vishnu Jagadagur says, even though sin is completely uprooted just by chanting the name once, which is the case of Ajamil, in most cases, the name shows its fruits to the world only after some time. The fruit is there, but the world can see it only later. Okay. Just as fruit trees bear fruit only after some time and not immediately. Okay. So even though first time only the sin is uprooted along with sinful desire, but is there for the world to see only slowly. And previously it was mentioned so that the other either the other smarta philosophies and other philosophies are not completely uprooted for that purpose. And in some cases, the name does not show its effects at all. Even though someone may be sincerely chanting, in some cases, it may happen that his sinful tendencies do not go away at all. Rare. But the holy name does do it in some cases. Okay. Why? In order that the material scriptures such as Karma Kanda are not completely destroyed. Then, after doing this, because they see that, then after doing this, so that the devotee may suffer and suffer and suffer. The name takes the person who has chanted without offense to the Lord's abode. Because where he is going, the Karma Kandis cannot see. They can see that he has died. But after dying, the holy name, secret will take him to the Lord's abode. Even though holy name in that particular person may allow the sins to continue till his death. This conclusion should be understood by devotees. Of course, the smartas will never be able to understand this, and the smartas need not understand this also. Okay. Now, question number 5. Okay. Someone may say, okay, I accept that because of offense to the name, those who interpret the name as exaggeration will go to hell. Okay. Thank you for mentioning. We will not interpret the name. Okay. However, if chanting the name destroys all the sins, the karmis also chant the name, the jnanis also chant the name, the yogis also chant the name, the bhaktas also chant the name. None of them should go to hell for indulging in sex or violence or whatever if they chant the holy name. Correct? And if the name does not destroy all the sin, then all these people, including the devotees, should go to hell to suffer the results of their sin, even if they chant. Fair point, right? Very fair point. If you say the holy name is so glorious, whoever chants the holy name will never nate yamam pasha bhritascha tad batan swapnepi pashyanti hi chirna nishkrita. You said that one who chants the holy name will never ever have to what to speak of um, go to hellish planets. He will not even have to see the Yamadutas even in dreams. Now, the Karmis chant, the Gyanis chant, the Yogis chant, the Bhaktas chant. If you say that the holy name is so powerful, then none of them should go to hell if they commit a sinful activity, if they are chanting the holy name. Or if you say the holy name is not so powerful, then then all of them should go to hell, including Bhaktas, if they commit a forbidden activity. Is my understanding right or wrong? This is the question. Now, the answer is coming. Okay. So, just hold on for a second. The answer, he says, though a merchant, so this is answer number 5. Even though a merchant protects a person under his shelter, according to the degree that the person surrenders to him, if the person offends him, the merchant becomes displeased with him and does not give protection to that surrendered person. This is very understandable, right? So, if a person, if someone has a master, he will protect that person under his shelter only to the extent the person surrenders to him and does offend him. But if he starts offending the master is not obliged to protect that person. So similarly, these karmis, jnanis, yogis who chant the holy name, they don't take proper shelter of the holy name and they are offensive to the holy name. Okay. How they are offensive, we will see very soon. He says, but one should not think that the merchant is incapable of protecting him. Just because he does not protect does not mean he is incapable of protecting. And according to the degree that the offense diminishes, the merchant begins to show mercy to that person. If the offense diminishes, he will start showing mercy. When the offense is completely gone, the merchant shows all the mercy. The name is similar. Those who take shelter of Bhakti Devi, representing the name as a secondary practice in order to bring out results of karma and jnana, are called karmis or jnanis, even though bhakti is present in a minor portion. They are chanting the holy name, which is a limb of bhakti. So there is a small element of bhakti, but that element of bhakti is secondary. They have primarily accepted the limbs of karma, jnana, etc. They have only accepted the limbs of bhakti as secondary. So therefore, such people are not called as Vaishnavas, because only if bhakti is primary or if bhakti is pure, without any contamination of jnana, karma, yoga, etc., then they are called as Vaishnava. But if bhakti becomes secondary, they are called as karma yogis, jnana yogis, ashtanga yogis, like that. So he says, by their natures they are offender. So a karma yogi, jnana yogi, ashtanga yogis are offenders by default. Why? Because for it is said that dharma vratatya agahutadi sarva shubha kriyas samyapi pramada. So Padma Puran says the eighth of a holy name is to consider the name equivalent to dharma, vrata, sacrifices or other karma kandi rites. So to consider the holy name equal to other pious activities, if that is an offense, these people consider chanting the holy name to be inferior to the limbs of karma, jnana, etc. Then how much more of a serious offense is that? So if considering the name to be equal to karma and dharma is an offense, then the offense is much more if one considers the name secondary to karma and dharma. being a mere limb of karma and dharma. All the karma yogis, they do chant the holy name, but they consider the holy name to be secondary to karma. This is a much more serious offense. So he says, though recognizing that they have offended her, so Bhakti Devi knows that they have offended her, but out of compassion, Bhakti Devi thinks Karma Yoga and these other processes should not be fruitless since they have accepted a small enough for shelter. So Bhakti Devi will not help them escape hell if they commit sin. But whatever result of Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Devi will allow them to have that. Thus, though she has become only a limb of karma, she gives the results of karma, jnana, and other processes without obstruction. So, because it is an offense, but still, because they are at least taking secondary shelter of her, the holy name will not give them Krishna Prem. The holy name will not help them escape hell if they commit sinful activities, but the holy name will make that process of Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga fruitful. Otherwise, Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, the limbs of Karma or Jnana have no potency in themselves to give any result if not supported by Bhakti. Okay. Similarly, even when when Bhakti is a limb of atonement, she destroys the sins in those persons practicing atonements. So even a person who performs a Karmakandi atonement, he should chant the holy name or perform some limb of Bhakti. Only then that atonement will also work. It is not otherwise. And those who do not perform atonements go to hell to experience the results of their sin. However, Vaishnavas do not need to perform these kind of atonements. The holy name itself will act as the atonement. Furthermore, if those persons commit other offenses, such as interpreting the name or committing offense to the devotee and then perform dharma and other processes, Bhakti Devi gives them no results for their efforts, even though she is a limb of dharma and other process. So a karma yogi or a jnana yogi, when they perform atonements, while performing atonements, if they offend Vaishnavas, then they will not get any result. If they interpret the holy name, consider the chanting of the holy name to be an exaggeration, like the smartas do, they will not get any result for that. Even for their karma yoga. So he quotes this verse, Kete aparadha viprendra namno bhagavata kritaha vinignanti nanam katyam prakritam hi anayanti cha. Such a person will absolutely become a materialist, this verse says. Okay. So he says, if those persons become free from offense and dedicate themselves to chanting or the other processes, they will get results for their karma and jnana in proportion to the destruction of the offenses. But if they give up these offenses, if they stop offending the Vaishnavas, if they beg forgiveness for their offense already committed, and if they stop interpreting the holy name and all that, and then practice karma yoga and jnana yoga, then they will get the result of karma yoga and jnana yoga in proportion to the destruction of their offenses. So these 10 offenses are not just for devotees alone. Most of the offenses are applicable even for the karma yogis and jnana yogis. A karma yogi and jnana yogi also, they cannot commit Vaishnava aparad or arthavada to get the result. They may accept chanting the holy name or a limb of bhakti as the secondary limb. It's okay, they cannot escape that sin, that offense, but they cannot do arthavadam. They cannot consider the glories of chanting the holy name to be they cannot interpret those verses or consider it to be an exaggeration or offend a Vaishnava. These are serious offenses. For that, they will not get the result of their karma yoga or jnana yoga also. So he says, however, with complete reduction of offense by association with devotees, attainment of the results of chanting is certain by the direct mercy of Bhakti Devi. So now, The next question. Okay. Question number, is it 6 or 7? Question number 6. Okay. The sixth question is that from the words of the servants of Yama, it is understood that Ajamil was previously involved in karma. So you Yamadutas have come. Ajamil Konta, who was Ajamil? He was a Brahmana only. It is very clear he was a Brahmana. He was not a devotee. So therefore, Ajamil performed only secondary bhakti secondarily, which means he considered the chanting of the holy name to be secondary to karma. Correct? So therefore, all his sins should not have been removed by chanting. Sin removal is possible only if you accept bhakti as primary, or at least not know the glories of bhakti. Here was Ajamil, who was a Brahmana before he took up to all this sinful life. So therefore, he considered he must have considered bhakti to be a secondary limb only. So therefore, how could his sins be destroyed? Very valid point. Now, the answer, very beautiful answer. Yeah. So now the answer for the sixth question that is given. That is true. But and by sinful acts like drinking, his status as a Brahmana was destroyed. What to speak of his pious acts as karma? So when he continued performing sinful actions after being a Brahmana, he fell down from his position of being a Brahmana. So he fell down from his position of being a Brahmana, and his karma shraddha also was destroyed. His qualification for karma yoga also was destroyed because of his intense sinful life. So it will be explained. Ajamil was a Brahman who, because of bad association, had given up all Brahminical culture and religious principles. Becoming most fallen, he stole, drank, and performed other abominable acts. He even kept a prostitute. So his Brahminical culture and religious principles and his karma adhikar was destroyed. So he was no longer a Brahmana. He cannot be considered as a Brahmana. He cannot be considered as a karma yogi. He is an absolute materialist now. So he had no faith in bhakti. He had no faith in karma. That is his question. So when his pious karma destroyed, his secondary bhakti was also destroyed. Okay, now he is a clean slate. So Ajamil is a clean slate after he took up to sinful life. Before he took up to sinful life, Ajamil was not a clean slate. He was a karma yogi. But when he took up to sinful life by committing so many sins, all the pious credits were lost. His inclination for karma yoga also was lost, and whatever secondary bhakti was there, that was also lost. So now is Ajamil, when he names his son as Narayan, he's a clean slate. No piety to show, no bhakti to show, no jnana, nothing. Now when he chanted the holy name, it is with no faith. He had no faith. What will the chanting do? Agyata Sukriti. Right? So then pure bhakti appeared when he called out the name of his son Narayan. Then when he chanted, it led to pure bhakti. Okay. So this is the explanation. Now, the next question arises. Okay, question number 7. Okay. But if there is a scriptural rule that one should perform bhakti as a limb of karma or jnana, how can that be offensive? This is a very powerful question. Try to understand this question. So here it is mentioned, if you say, so bhakti as a secondary limb of karma or jnana is mentioned in Shastras only. The scriptures only recommend, the Dharma Shastras or the Jnana Shastras say, apart from practicing your limbs of karma and jnana, you should also practice bhakti, a secondary limb. So how can the Shastras inspire the practitioner to commit offenses? This is the question, right? Because the eighth offense is to consider the chanting of the holy name to be as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. But now it is those very Shastras which recommend chanting as a secondary limb of karma or jnana. So how can the Shastras inspire commission of offense? This question arises. Okay. So the answer to this question. Okay. The answer to this question, answer number 7. Okay. One should not recognize, one means a devotee. So because this purport is written for a devotee should not recognize as authoritative scripture those statements which permit secondary bhakti out of mercy for persons of crooked mentality. Crooked mentality means those who do not have pure devotional mentality, who have no faith in bhakti but faith in karma and jnana, and do not believe in statements like all processes accomplish their results by bhakti alone. By a particle of bhakti, the greatest sins are destroyed. They cannot trust these statements. Yat karmabir, yat tapasa, jnana vairagyata, yat yogena dana dharmena shreyobir itarairapi, sarvam madbhakti yogena madbhakta labate anjasa, swarga, apavarga, madhama, katanchid yadi vanchati. As Krishna tells Uddhava in the 11th canto. Whatever result can be attained by karma, jnana, yoga, etc., my devotee just by practice of bhakti can attain it. But because they don't have faith in bhakti, when people read these statements, they will not trust it. Those who do not have pure devotional faith cannot trust statements glorifying pure devotional service. Therefore, these Dharma Shastras and Jnana Shastras, they recommend a limb of bhakti to be practiced secondarily because they have faith in karma or jnana only. Okay. So, therefore, for such, so therefore the Dharma Shastras, Jnana Shastras and Yoga Shastras are not accepted as authoritative Shastras by the devotees. Which means not authoritative for them to follow. We are not supposed to follow Dharma Shastras. We are not supposed to follow Jnana Shastras. We are not supposed to follow Yoga Shastras. But we don't reject them outright as being unfit for anyone to be followed. That we do not do. Then it becomes the fourth offense, Shruti Shastra Ninda. But we don't accept them as authoritative for us to follow. For us, Bhakti Shastras are authoritative. We follow only Bhakti Shastra. But we do accept that these Shastras are there for those people who are not ready to accept pure devotional teachings. For them, they can accept. But just because Shastras say, the Shastras are not telling it for us. So Shastras speak according to qualification. For those who are qualified for practicing pure devotional service, they do not accept as Abhideya Granthas these Shastras, Dharma Shastras and Jnana Shastras, which recommend practice of bhakti as a secondary limb. So we do not accept that. Not for our practice. It can be for them. Okay. So therefore, in attaining Swarga through animal sacrifices by following the rules, the fault of violence is not destroyed. Similarly, though the offender attains the results of karma and jnana with secondary bhakti, according to rules, his offense is not destroyed. So, karma yogi or jnana yogi can never be a non-offender because they will definitely commit this offense of equating the holy name with the karma or jnana, or worse still, considering the holy name to be secondary to karma or jnana. They can never escape this offense. They will always be offenders. but still the holy name is kind to them, that it will give the results of karma and jnana. So he says, those offenders who accept a Vaishnava Guru by Vaishnava initiation take shelter of Bhakti Devi purely or as the primary process, and then worship the Lord by chanting, are called as Vaishnavas. Okay, so it may be a one should accept a Vaishnava Guru and may practice and must accept Vaishnava initiation, and they may take shelter of Bhakti Devi purely as Shuddha Bhakti or as a primary process. Bhakti is primary, karma, jnana, or yoga may be a tinge of it may be there. This is called as mixed devotional service. Such people are called as Vaishnavas. According to the degree of bhakti, they attain destruction of offenses. And according to the degree of Bhakti Devi's mercy, they attain the principal result of bhakti, which is prema. So, to the degree of destruction of offenses, the 10 offenses to the holy name, to that extent, we attain the mercy of Bhakti Devi. And if complete destruction of offense happens, then one attains prema. So this is proved through many of these months. 11th canto famous verse. Yata yatatma parimrijyate sau mat punyagata shravanabhidhanaihi tata tata pashyati vastu sukshmam chakshur yataivanjana samprayuktam. To the degree the Atma becomes purified by hearing and chanting my glories, purified of offenses primarily. Okay. A person is able to perceive my real form and qualities and experience their sweetness. This is possible only at the stage of prema. Yata yatatma parimrijyate sau matpunyagata shravanabhidanai. Tatastata pashyati vastu sukshmam chakshur yataivanjana samprayuktam. Like that. And again, bhakti pareshanubhavo virak anyatra chaishatrika ekakala. To the extent one progresses on the path of bhakti, he also gets pareshanubhava. Realization of the Supreme Lord. To that extent, his detachment from material attachments also manifest to that extent. And of course, so many verses he quotes. So he says, by these statements, it is understood that those persons gradually ascend through the 14 stages of bhakti. So if one consciously tries to avoid the offenses, gradually he will go from Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nartanurti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema. And of course, there are some stages before bhakti also. 14 stages, he says, which means even before Shraddha, there is Satam Kripa, Mahatseva, Anartha Nivritti, Shraddha, Agyata Sukriti, sorry, not Anartha, Agyata Sukriti, accumulation of Agyata Sukriti, which leads to Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, and so on. In these cases, faith and other steps are prescribed. And in this chapter also it is said, Gunanuvada Kalu Sattva Bhavana. Chanting the glories is the process of purification. When all their offenses are gradually destroyed and they attain the Lord, they are liberated from this world. So when all the offenses are destroyed, without it, when it is absolute non-offensive commission of devotional service, it immediately gives the result of prema. Okay. So gradual destruction of offenses, gradual purification, gradual liberation. However, for those without offense, attainment of the Lord is quick. Such persons only have 2 stages. There are not 14 stages. 14 stages for those who have committed offenses, but only 2 stages for attaining for those who have not committed any offenses. Point to be noted. Chanting holy name, attaining Vaikuntha. They chant, they attain Vaikuntha. If they have never ever committed an offense, there are only 2 stages. Such is the case of Ajamila. This is a point to be noted. This small line may go unnoticed. Ajamil did not have any offense. But in our cases, this is not the case. That is why we are chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting. What to speak of Vaikuntha Viman? We don't even seem to overcome our basic anarthas. right? Because we are holding on to the offenses. We are not trying to consciously, scrutinizingly trying to understand what constitutes commission of these offenses and how do we actually overcome these offenses. We are not trying seriously. But this was not the case of Ajamil. Somehow, a very unique case where there was no offenses. He chanted, and immediately at the time of death, the Vishnu Dutas came. So therefore, you see, na Vasudeva Bhaktanam Ashubham Vidyate Kvachit Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Bhayam Vapi Upajayate. This is quoted from Mahabharata. The devotees of Vasudeva have no misfortune at all. They surpass birth, death, old age, and disease. Even though they may take birth again, that birth is not controlled by karma. Even though they may get diseased, that disease is not due to karma. Even though they may die, that death is not due to their karma. And there are other verses that are being quoted here. But there are some unique cases. Let me see how many more slides. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God. I think we are stuck. Okay. Okay. I think, anyways, I think we have a lot to complete, but I think at least some part of it is sort of answered. I think we will, what we will do is, just hold on for a second. Just give me a minute. Okay. So anyways, we will cover one more small part. However, some devotees without offense who desire to attain a special prayer are delayed in attaining the Lord. Some people, they don't have any offense, but they want to attain prema, because even beyond prema there are many stages, which is all called prema in general. But there are prema, pranaya, mana, raga, anuraga, mahabhav, so many other higher stages are there. If someone is desiring to attain a special prema, that is, then he may be delayed in attaining that prema. And the example that is given is, for instance, Jadabharat took 3 lives to attain the Lord, because this was specially orchestrated by the Lord, even though he did not have any offense. Okay. Anyways, I think there is no point. I think I should leave some time for some discussion. Someone is suggesting that that I continue these remaining slides. And this is all that we are discussing is just one purport, and we have not even completed half the purport. Okay, so it would be a good exercise to cover these this in the next session, if I'm allowed. If I'm allowed, I would like to cover it, because this is very, very critical, because I don't want to leave without without actually taking some time for some discussion questions, because this is a very critical section. Okay, I will pause now for some discussion points. If there are any quick discussion points, questions, comments, please go ahead and ask. I see 2 hands already up. Lalitangi Radha Mataji, you can please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranams. I mean, I wish your classes be only once in a month or so for Bhakti Sangha, because what you speak goes beyond our capacity to understand, and you give so much more, so much packed in one class, and we are like a dog trying to lick the ocean. Very, very grateful to you, Prabhuji. This is for the next future generations. I think that, this is such a valuable effort of yours and very unique and very nice. And in all your sessions, you have covered all the gray areas of bhakti with great effort and with great authority. So thank you so much for that. My question is about the...
Just a comment, Mataji. I am just, if you have observed, I have just read Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary. I have not given any of my explanations. It is all directly what he has written only. So I can't take any credit for any of these things. It is all directly his commentary only. I have not explained any of my own explanations.
We agree that, Prabhuji, but for us, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary is like a coconut on top of the tallest coconut tree, and we don't have, we are not equipped to climb that coconut tree to get that. So what you're doing is really amazing, bridging the, miles of gap. So thank you for that. That credit is for you, Prabhuji. Thank you for that. So my question is regarding the offenses. It's not directly about the class, but this I had in mind. I have seen and also attend some of my elder members of the family. They are from they do a bhajan, which is called Sampradaya Bhajan. And they have a book that they publish the 10 offenses also. And in that, the second offense is that to differentiate between the name of Hari and Shiva is an offense. So I attended one lecture of Amarendra Prabhu where he said that if you take the direct meaning, it's like that. But if we take another meaning, it's what we are saying, that it's not independent of the names of Lord Vishnu.
Yeah. That particular statement from Padma Puran somehow gives an opportunity for alternative interpretation. But we do understand it the right way. Our Vaishnavacharyas have explained it in the right way. Yeah.
So my question is, it's completely opposite to that. The interpretations of them and the Vaishnavacharyas are totally 180-degree opposite. So how it could be like that, Prabhuji? I'm just trying to understand.
This is because Krishna wants to protect the faith of those people also. Because Krishna says, Yo-yo yamyam tanum bhaktam shraddayarchitum ichchati tasya tasyachalam shraddam tameva vidadamyaham. He says, whenever I see a person having an inclination to worship a particular demigod, then I ensure that that person, his faith is enhanced and he continues worshipping that demigod. And one of the ways in which Krishna enhances the faith of those other worshippers is through the Shastras, where he gives a scope for their own interpretation of this particular verse, so that their faith in worshipping Lord Shiva is intact. So therefore, if you see in Bhakti Sandarbha, I guess it is mentioned that of the demigod worshippers, also of even Lord Shiva's worshippers, there are gradations. So those Lord Shiva worshippers who consider Lord Shiva, Lord Shiva's name to be on the same level of Lord Vishnu's name, they are considered to be elevated Shaivites. Those who consider Lord Shiva to be superior to Vishnu are considered to be inferior. But those who come on the same level, those who consider Lord Shiva's name to be on the same level as Vishnu's name are considered to be actually superior Shaivites, but they are considered to be inferior Vaishnavites. So depending on the qualification, like that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That very much satisfies the query. Thank you so much for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Mother Gail.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, part 2 is a must for this class. So please let it happen.
If I get the permission, I'll do monthly.
Yeah, I'm sure that's there already. Okay, so my first question, I couldn't understand how it is that Krishna claims as his own a person who utters his name even just once, even though that person has not yet committed to taking up the Bhakti Yoga process. So what is the difference in Krishna's attitude toward these two people, the person who has just even once uttered his name and the person who has decided to commit to the process?
Because that shows Krishna's eagerness to increase his family. Because you did not chant the holy name asking me for Swarga. You did not chant the holy name asking me for liberation. You did not chant the holy name asking me for any of the material benefits. So I will give you the bit of doubt that you chanted the holy name wanting to establish a relationship with me. So I will give you the benefit of doubt. This makes no sense to even us, but that's how much Krishna is eager to expand his family. I will consider you as mine. Because you have not explicitly stated, I will assume that you chanted my holy name because you wanted me. That is Krishna's mode.
And so therefore, for that person who simply uttered the name once, do we assume, because I thought that only for those who have I thought I understood this from you actually, that only those who have decided that this is the path for me in life, only for those people, Krishna takes personal charge of such people's lives. But for a person who has not done so, even though he has uttered Krishna's name, I mean, therefore, would he have that same commitment to that person?
Well, he may not take commitment, but he will give Agyat Sukrit.
Opportunity.
Instead, not opportunity, Agyata Sukriti. He will give that
unknowing devotional service.
Yeah, unknowing devotional service. You know, he considers it as, okay, you did not specifically ask me for anything, so I will put it in the account of bhakti, you know, bhakti onmukhi sukriti. So, I will, if sometimes someone comes to temple and gives a donation, they don't tell to which department it goes, you know. So do you want it to be in the book distribution department? Do you want this donation to be in the DT worship department? Which department, they don't say. So if without any mention, if they give a donation, then the temple may have a standard policy. Okay, it will go to DT worship department by default if there is no specific mention. So similarly, Krishna has a standard policy that if someone chants the holy name or performs any limb of devotional service without specifically asking for swarga or liberation or any of these things, by default he will put that credit into bhakti's account only. So as and when, so he will keep gaining Agyat Sukriti, which will eventually mature into bhakti.
Yes, I understand he's getting Agyata Sukriti, but what I still can't understand is, for such a person, is karma no longer operating in his life like it is for the Bhakti Yogi?
If that chanting was offenseless.
Yeah.
So otherwise,
if that chanting was offenseless, if that chanting was offenseless, even though he has not committed to taking up the Bhakti Yoga practice, karma is no longer having jurisdiction in his life. Only Krishna is taking personal charge.
What to speak of karma? He immediately attains the stage of bhava. That's what Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says. That he says, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Srila Rupa Goswami says, Duruha Adbhuta Viryesmin Shraddha Durestu Panchake Yatra Swalpapi Sambandha Sadhyam Bhava Janmani. He says, Sadhyam, if a person is without any offenses, he what to speak of having faith in any of these five most potent limbs, even if he has a slight touch with any of these five most potent limbs, if he is offenseless, very important condition. Bhava Janmani, he immediately attains the stage of Bhava, he says, what to speak of destroying karma, that even a sadhaka, by taking up the immediately his karma is destroyed. But he reaches Bhava, Rupa Goswami says.
Okay, so let's say a person has committed offense, right? And that person has committed, this bhakti yoga is his only path in life. This is his shelter, bhakti yoga, but he has committed offense. So for such a person, Krishna is taking personal control over that person's life. Karma has no jurisdiction for that person, right?
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
yes.
Now, for the person, however, who has uttered Krishna's name once, but he does have offense and he has not committed to the bhakti yoga path, does Krishna take over his life? Does karma have jurisdiction in that person's life?
Karma will, he has committed offenses, right?
Yes, but he has uttered Krishna's name once, but has not taken up the bhakti yoga process.
So Krishna will allow that person's chanting holy name to go into his Agyata Sukriti account. He will not take immediate charge of that person.
Okay, that's what I wanted to understand. Okay. Yeah, and then also, separate point, you said that a person who a karma yogi or a ashtanga yogi, like that, jnana yogi, if they need to implement some limb of bhakti in order to get the fruit of their activities. Yet they will simultaneously, though, they do go to hell for their sinful activity. So I'm trying to understand how both can happen at the same time. You get the fruit of, let's say, jnana yogi, right? The fruit is liberation, isn't it? So how does such a person go to hell for sinful?
Yeah, but that does not mean at the time of death they are guaranteed to attain liberation. They have to qualify themselves. If at the time of death they have not perfected the path of Jnana Yoga, why would they go to liberation? They will not. And in the meantime, if they commit a sinful activity, for that, the result of that sinful activity, if it is a grave sin, if they have to go to hell, they will go to hell. And then they may come back and they may get an opportunity to continue their practice of devotions, of whatever, karma yoga. Yeah.
Okay. Just one last burning question I have, though, is, you had raised this, one of the questions was there, where it seemed like Parikshit Maharaj was biased against Prayaschitta, because we see that a person, say a karmi, he does a Prayaschitta and still he goes back to sinful activities, but he didn't protest when he noticed that even devotees, right, after taking up devotional service, they also go back to sinful behavior. So
correct.
There was two reasons that you gave for why he did not pose this objection, I think.
Correct.
I think I understood the second one, so that the Karmakandis would not abuse the holy name. But can you repeat the first one? What was the first reason for why?
The first one is, if you remember, such is due to the inertia of his conditionings, which will eventually go away. As Prabhupada always gives the example of, if the fan is switched off, it will not immediately stop. It will rotate for a while, because the inertia of motion will keep it rotating for a while, but after some time it will stop. So similarly, for devotees also, the inertia of their conditionings will push them to commit some sinful activities, forbidden activities for a while, but it will not lead to accumulation of karma and rebirth. So that's what was compared to biting of a toothless snake, like that. Yeah.
Okay. And the Dharma Shastras, quickly, the Dharma Shastras refer to those who see
which
prescribed duties as their shelter?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Prahladananda Prabhu? Yes, Mataji?
Oh, yes, Prabhuji. Nothing. Do you have time? We have so many raised hands, Prabhuji.
I have time, but you must be having other things scheduled.
We are
So
good, Prabhuji. We don't have anything till 9 o'clock. For the next 45 minutes, we don't have anything. We're good.
Okay. I still have another at least 15 minutes I have, Mataji. So
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Prahladananda Prabhu, please go ahead.
Then Pranam, Balaram Saktidas Prabhuji. We had a very nice encounter earlier also, but this was just like, double PhD thesis you were presenting.
yes, the thesis of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
Well, a lot of things, to comprehend and, kind of systematize in our brain and all that. But anyway, this was really a very powerful presentation. I had this slok which was coming in my mind off and on, the first canto slok, Apanna Sansrutim Goram Yannam Vivase Grunam Tata Sadyo Vimucheta Yad Viveti Swam. So, that word Sadya, it bothers me so many times. But I did make out some of this, inferences out of what we discussed today. My another question is
so I will just make one comment there. Sadhya refers to the capability of the holy name to deliver immediately. Sadhya, immediately. The holy name is capable.
Right.
But the chanter of the holy name should have the qualification of being offenseless.
Nice.
So then the holy name can deliver an offender also in one moment, lately. But the holy name being a personality, he has his own likes and dislikes.
That's right.
So he chooses not to deliver. So Sadhya refers to the capability of the holy name to deliver immediate, but the holy name chooses not to do for various reasons. One is when offenses are there. Sometimes even when offenses are not there, just to to not allow the other kind of lower philosophies to be destroyed for various different purposes, to protect the correct nature of bhakti, for so many other reasons that are mentioned. It has.
So why this question arose in my mind was because I know a lot of people who are very sattvic people, all right, and they chant Swami Narayan. There's word Narayan in that, whatever they chant. But they put someone else above Lord Krishna. They put Sahajanand Swami above Lord Krishna. That,
Okay.
And I have always argued that, Bhagavad Gita says, Matta Partaram Nanya. How can you put someone, even if he's Vishnu Tattva, we don't know whether he's Vishnu Tattva or not, but they propound it from their Shastra or whatever. So my question was, does that Narayan work out or not? But as you say that, it is proportional to their offense. And if they are committing such a great offense of putting someone above Lord Krishna, I don't think that Narayan chanting will have any effect. Yeah, what do you say about that?
I have no idea about what they follow, whether it is bona fide or not, whether, if they are quoting some Shastras, and if that understanding of Shastra is coming in a proper bona fide Vaishnava Parampara, then it may be correct, because we also quote Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while the other Sampradayas do not accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we chant Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya before even chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So, but we do have acharyas who have clearly presented the bona fideness of worship of Krishna, worship of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all that, and it's a proper bona fide parampara. Otherwise, if what they are proposing and chanting is not according to parampara, then Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidimbina Aikanti Harer Bhaktir Utpata Eva Kalpate. So even though it may look like very steady pace, but will lead to Utpata only. So that is the understanding. But I don't know whether they are proper, they have a parampara connection or not. But this is the general principle I'm presenting.
They claim that they are following Ramanujacharya Sri Sampradaya, and what's that they are saying like that. But I'm not convinced in the sense that, you know, so how
we don't know, and we need not be interested also. Because right, it's okay. If they have,
it was, I was just interested in point of preaching, you know. So when I start to preach, they counter preach to me.
Oh, then we should stop, because otherwise it will become the ninth offense.
That's right.
Instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
Yeah, that's why I have now taken policy of bypassing them. You know, just ignore this. Just say Dvisatsu. Bali says who the 11th canto slows. They said. So that's why that's the policy. Thank you very much for giving me the time to speak, Prabhuji, as always.
Thank you.
Dhanwad Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Subramanyam Iyer, Prabhu.
My daughter has made Sukhakar Krishnadas to put my Karmi name. That's why it has become Subramanyam.
Yes, sorry, Prabhu. Sukhakar Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Very nice to see you again, Balaram, Shakti Prabhu. See, I did my chartered accountancy and cost and management accountancy, but I found your class, you're super analytical. You know, you just took one verse and did so many things. So it is like a thesis, though you said in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but you also dwelled on that. Your mind is very, very analytical and deep. So what my understanding is, Ajamila, just by chanting once, he could remove the Vishnu Dutta. So we are in the reversed life. So many sins are happening. So I'm in a very confused state. It is better to be, just chant. After knowing so many offenses, Dham Aparad, Dham Aparad, Vaishnava Aparad. So it is becoming very complicated. How to get out of that, It's not the Nama bus stage, when it will go, whether whole life. But you said chant once clearly. What is that clearly? Means you should be selfless. You should be knowing that I'm not anything. I'm the same soul. I'm a servant. I'm talking to me to Thakur, Tumar, Kukur. Everything I'm understanding. But still, that way to achieve that, I'm getting very worried. Not that worried means people can attain. But somebody yesterday was telling it'll take even 1 life, 2 life also. You have patience to do it. So I'm just wanting some consolation from your side.
Yes, Prabhu, consolation will come in the next session, because I will share, because we have to really understand. Of course, one key indication that was given was, because this will take a little longer time to explain, and a part of that explanation comes in the other part of the quote also. But to say that, to say, I wish I was like Ajamil, not knowing anything about bhakti, so that without knowing anything about bhakti, if I had chanted immediately, the Vishnu Dutas would have come and picked me up and taken me to Vaikuntha. It is not like that at all. So it is not so cheap that Ajamil's case was very specific, that he had no history of offense. So others, it does not generally happen. We will, of course, I will touch on this point little bit more.
So only when you become a devotee, the offense starts.
No. That is also wrong. No, that is also wrong understanding. That is not true. So offenses act whether irrespective of whether we are devotees or not. That is another misconception that people have, that only because I become a devotee, this whole offense thing has started for me. It's not true. It's there for everyone. We saw today also that even the Karma Yogis or Jnana Yogis, if they offend devotees, they will not get the result of Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga also. So what to speak of? So as a non-devotee, if someone offends a devotee, that is an offense only. And when they eventually take up to bhakti, it will have a problem. And when such people chant like Ajam, they will not, the Vishnu Dutas will not come.
Mm.
Yeah.
But one thing I'm very sure that I'm getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 to 7, so you get a Zoom chanting. So I do around 35 rounds, and throughout the day I chant maybe 48. I want to make it 64. So but again the classes are so wonderful, nectarian. Keep adding one and then give some classes. So the whole day passes away. So I just thought that to do 64 rounds, that may be the thing which Srila Prabhupada wanted everybody. But then nobody could chant 64. It came to 16. So now I'm retired. I think 64 is a good landmark. Not your chant even 108 rounds also, but at least a benchmark if you do 64. At least you know that yes, you're uttering so many times Krishna's name. And then read, apply, and then preach. That is the only policy I feel that it can help us to remember Krishna always and never forget Krishna.
Yes, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you
Hare
very much.
Krishna.
Romba Sad-
Balaram Prasad Prabhu.
Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I am Balaram Prasad and
Yes,
you are Shakti. So I thought
yes.
your Guru Maharaj has given the name Balaram Shakti. That means that shows in your classes how that Shakti Balaram has given to you. And that's why I think Guru Maharaj named you Balaram Shakti, because it's not ordinary to give a class. To give such a realization, even though Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given, how do you know that this is the better way of explaining? It's not that better way. You catch the point and explain so nicely everything. I don't think I would have even read this Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur purport. So one realization and thought, Prabhu, even though the Veera Raghava Acharya and others spoke and gave realization, Vishnu Chakravarti gave so deep realization. So how do we understand that? Means the devotee, there are devotees as well, right? Veera Raghava Acharya, they had different realization, but Vishnu Chakravarti has this.
No. I
Okay.
think Vishwanath Chakravarti very nicely reconciles and explains all those realizations. From
Okay.
what I understood, at least in this particular case.
Okay. So it's basically he's giving the same thing, but in detail.
Yeah. He is just adding more details to it. That's all.
Adding more. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So that's one thing I feel is, as you all said, so many offenses we are making every day. I definitely make a lot of offenses. I believe that. How do you get rid of these offenses is a $1 million question for us, right? So I know this offense is the one which is not making us progress in Krishna conscious or anything. So how do you get rid of offenses is the question for me.
Yeah, for that, it's the answer is actually it's a long, because for each offense, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has dedicated one full chapter in his Harinam Chintamani, explaining first what it is to actually commit that offense, how do you avoid that offense, and if you have already committed it, how do you rectify it for each of those 10 offenses, plus the inattentive chanting offense and everything. He gives an elaborate discussion, dedicating one full chapter for each of the offense. So if you get an opportunity, please read and internalize that book. It's a very powerful.
But looking at this explanation, I'm losing my hope, Prabhu.
No, you don't have to. We don't have to.
Okay.
There is always in the association of devotees.
Okay, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hari Prasad, who?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Are you able to hear me? Acha, okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Prabhuji, you had mentioned that Ajamila didn't offended the holy name. So at the same time, the end of the presentation, you had spoken that for the person who doesn't offend, there are only two stages. One is chanting and going to Vaikunta. So, but in the beginning of presentation, again, going back, he has chanted the first holy name. And after that, Bhakti Sukriti increased, the offense are removed, and slowly Bhakti increased. At the end of the death, the holy name, Vaikuntha Vasis came. Right? So that's what I understand. So it seems
Yeah.
little, some kind of contradiction for me. Can you please reconcile all?
Well, Bhakti, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also did mention that sometimes the holy name may not give the result immediately. He did say that at least a few times, actually, in the same purport till where we have covered till now. He did say that sometimes holy name does not give the result immediately. It delays for a while for various reasons and eventually gives. And even in Ajamil's case, if you see, the Vishnudutas came, 4 of them came. Ideally, after seeing off the Yamadutas, 5 of them should have gone back, including Ajamil, but only 4 returned. Ajamil stayed back. For another 10-12 years, went to Haridwar, performed his bhakti, perfected it, and then he went to Vaikunta. So yeah, I mean, it is not that it is necessary that immediately the holy name need not act also. It can, the holy can act, the holy name may choose to not act also. So, but definitely what is mentioned is Ajamil's case was he was free from offenses. Yeah, what you say is right. Ideally, he must have immediately gone to Vaikunta, but that is not necessarily always accomplished by the holy name also.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, one more small question which I had is, I'm not remembering if I heard properly or not, but is it true that you had mentioned that in the initial part of the presentation, first question, that anyone who chants holy name, their karma, all the desires, sinful tendencies, and even avidya also goes away. That's what I understand. Is it the case with only the person who chants offenseless, or is it the case with anybody who chants? Means like all of us.
All of us also, the avidya is gone for sure. The sins are gone for sure. Avidya in the form of the inclinations will not go away immediately. It will take time. But for those who are offenseless, even that will go immediately, actually.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I have to apologize because in some time I have one more class, so I will have to take your leave, and maybe if I do the second part of the presentation, then I promise that I will take more questions. So if that is okay. I really apologize. I would have liked to take more questions, but time is short.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your very, very precious class, Prabhuji. It's given us some hope, and you have explained it so wonderfully. I still have a lot of doubts in my mind, but definitely this is very helpful. We'd like to end the call here. Thank you for answering so many questions too. We'd like to continue this session, hopefully next time. We'll end the call here. Vancha kalpata kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Ki jai. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Balaram Shakti Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
We'll end the call here, dear devotees, and definitely Mataji will arrange for another session with Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.